Hello, good evening and welcome back to In the Know, the live and interactive Cheltenham preview show brought to you by the Racing Post and Coral. It seems like we've been talking about the festival for weeks, nay months, nay years, given the past 12 months, but we are only, less than 24 hours away from the Supreme Novices Hurdle. Unexpected rain over the past 24 hours has thrown a spanner in the works for any horses who wanted good ground on day one of the festival, and small fields abound as well, but we still have 4 fantastic championship races, 3 fantastic novice chasers. I feel like I'm going to break into 5 gold rings in a second. We've got novice hurdlers, we've got handicaps, we've got bumpers, juveniles and mares races galore as well, and hopefully we will have a few winners to boot. My name is Ross Brierley and I'll be here with you every night, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday, reviewing the day's racing and looking ahead to the next day as well, in the company of 3 fine gentlemen who will hopefully be significantly richer come 4:50 on Friday. But if not, they're still going to be here. Starting off, introducing my tipster to the left, it's Mr. Paul Keeley. Paul, you were saying last week that you were coming into the festival in shocking form. I feel that the week is going to turn for you.
I do hope you're all right, Ross, but...
I realise I've set you up there with a terrible... you're in terrible form, Paul, but lovely to see you.
Yeah, no, the shocking form continued with the one horse I was really looking forward to, and I got massive price about Anti-Post, went lame on Saturday, and is now a non-runner in the Ultima that it would have... only needed to get around to win, judging by what's turning up in it, so yeah, bitterly disappointed, but... we crack on, don't we?
Let's get the disappointment out of the way, Paul, because we've got there's still 28 races to pick winners in. So are you feeling confident?
Yeah, I'm always confident going into Cheltenham, to be honest. You know, and we won't find out for another few days whether I was right or not to be. But yeah, I'm always pretty confident and buzzed up for it.
Okay, Paul will be with us then for the next 4 nights, and joining us live from his own living room, it is the Racing Post, Tom Segal. Tom, how are you doing?
Good, thanks, Ross. How are you?
I'm very well, but it's. Are you in a different time zone? It's very dark in your room.
It is dark. I should get the lights on, shouldn't I?
It's incredibly dark.
I'm hiding already.
Lovely stuff there. Well, I hope your tips are a bit brighter than your living room, Tom. Maybe we could get a lamp on. But are you well?
I'm doing my vampire phase. Yeah, clearly. No, I'm fine. Yeah, looking forward to it as always. I'm never quite as confident as Keels is, because I always think they're really hard, some of these races, and you sort of have positions which you might not want to be in halfway, already. But yeah, looking forward to it. It's the best 4 days racing of the year, and I can't wait for it to start.
What's your best and worst position currently as we sit here on Monday night, Tom?
Well, I've got very big prices about Soaring Glory in the Supreme Novices Hurdle. So I was sitting here last night thinking, oh, great, the ground's drying out nicely for him. He'll go well. And was dismayed to see that see the rain. And then I'm on a few at shorter prices than they are now, Silver Streak and a few others that I backed at shorter prices than they are now. It's always the same, though, because you never really know. When you anti-post betting is all about timing, isn't it? And you're never quite sure when the right time is to back these horses these days, because horses parachute in and out of races. I mean, we'll discuss it later, the National Hunt Chase, won't we? But no one sort of knew Next Destination was coming in until, yesterday morning, and sort of all of a sudden, your nice price, you're getting bigger price about Galvin and the other ones than you would have previously. So, bit of luck, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, you could have backed Next Destination for one race, you could have backed Sporting John, the big breakaway, Royal Pagale, exactly. You could have backed all the right horses in all the wrong races.
Exactly, which it has happened in the past, for sure.
Absolutely. Well, Tom will be giving us his tips as we go as well. And we're joined every day as well by Coral representative, Mr. Simon Clare.
Good to be here.
How are you doing?
I've got a sub-story too. Poor Annie Mac doesn't run on Friday. To top Paul's Lieutenant Rocco story.
I think we should get all these out of the way, all the disappointments out of the way.
Altior, I was on Altior,
boys.
There
you go. Oh, the lights on.
There we go.
For that. We can see you.
Altior Switzerland.
Look at that.
Yeah,
as if by magic.
Beautifully done.
But no, it is. I was down. Funny, we talk sport. We sponsored the breakfast show, and Anna Brazil and Ray Parlour were down doing the broadcast from Jackal Cast this morning, and me and Dave Stevens were down there, and that's when we found the news that
I think we're just having an issue with your microphone there, Simon.
okay.
You appear to have lost it. It's fine.
Right.
Microphones, lights. Who needs them, mate? It's you remember we used to do Cheltenham preview shows in person?
Yeah.
They were a lot easier, weren't they?
Quick,
Paul?
ask me a question. Take the heat off Simon.
Small fields. Let's talk about the small fields.
Yeah, small fields. Now this is actually a worry. I mean, look, I don't really feel sorry for bookmakers, but they've given loads of money. They've given loads of money back already on their non-runner, no bet, and they're entitled to think, we'll get nice big fields and all that. But now they've got this situation where we're probably going to get more short price favourites than ever before at any festival. All right? There will be no crowds, no rubbish folk music to upset the horses on the way down to the start. Fewer horses to get in their way when they're in the race. It could have a build-up for absolute carnage for bookmakers, couldn't it?
Are you suggesting the form book is basically going to stand up for 4
well,
days?
I mean, I hope not, because I don't back favourites either. When everyone says it's punter friendly and the punters have won, that means I've lost in general. So
yeah,
we'll have to wait and see.
I agree. I do feel comfortable with you and Simon and Tom in the company of fellow contrarians. It's nice. It's nice to look at a market and nobody tipped the favourite, but some of them will win, won't they, Simon?
They will. I mean, look, staring at the meeting. I chat to James Knight on the way here, and he's saying, tomorrow there's huge action going on around the favourites, which we'll come to. Wednesday looks tough for bookmakers, and there's almost an element for bookies. I think if they can get through the first 2 days, relatively unscathed, it does seem to get tougher and more competitive on Thursday. And certainly Friday looks a hell of a day, which is the biggest betting day. But we've kind of been there before. I know normally with bigger fields, but those short price favourites on the first 2 days are sort of par for the course really for Cheltenham.
Yeah, absolutely. And the championship races this year look, they look fantastic. There's not a single runner in them. I'm thinking, you don't have a chance of winning one of these.
Yeah, that's right. And I think even the champion chase, despite the loss of Altior and a short price favourite, there's a real each way depth behind Shackle and Poursoir. I mean, the Stayers Hurdle is a terrific race. The Gold Cup's a fantastic race. I think we haven't seen the Ryanair decks yet, but it will be a good race. And they're the biggest betting races. Remember that. Actually, there's a lot of money bet on the handicaps, and actually punters love those short price favourites as long as they're backable for the novice hurdles and novice chasers. They're probably just tipping towards unbackable in some of those novice chasers.
Like I said, I'm sure a lot of people each way trebles and fourfold on your 6-4, 7-4 shots.
Well, the first 2 races tomorrow are going to be that double is going to be a massive play for your average punter, and that's why ideally, it's early on. You can take that hit as a bookie, thinking you're going to get it back over the 4 days, but. I think it's going to be a great festival. For all Paul is worrying me slightly, because what all he does, smaller fields polarise more of the money onto that front two in the market, and that's where bookies just have to see and hope that they might get a few of them beat. Yeah,
I mean, you basically a lot of the time one race can change everything, can't it?
Definitely.
What have you got offers-wise for this week?
Yeah, so big week for all bookies. Fail to finish is Coral's big headline offer. Obviously, money back if your horse doesn't finish the race, up to £10 as a free bet. Listen, at Cheltenham, soft ground, plenty of horses pull up, some obviously fall unsuitable down. I think there are 102 horses we paid back on last year, 20% of all runners. We got a Racing Super Series, which is a free-to-play game that Coral offers, a 25 grand jackpot. It's actually bizarrely, I'm not entirely sure why. It's for the last 6 Cheltenham races, and the 7th race is the 5:45 at Newcastle, obviously leading into the evening racing. But
that's the race I'm looking forward to the most this week.
But it's free to play, and it follows the Coral each way terms. And on Saturday there were 21 winners who won £1,190 each. So at the end of the day, bit of fun. And the other thing I should say, actually, which I didn't really fully appreciate, Coral go best odds guaranteed from the moment the declarations are made. So for Wednesday's runners were already best odds guaranteed, and obviously for tomorrow, for Thursdays, which isn't common across all bookies. I think it's something just to mention that at least you get the best odds guaranteed from the moment the runners come through around 10:30.
Okay, well, there we go then. Offers galore then from Coral for the Cheltenham Festival this week. Well, I think we might as well get stuck into the races. It does feel, gentlemen, that we've been talking about these races over and over and over again for weeks and weeks and going through them, but there are still developments that have happened over the past 12, even 24 hours to get stuck into. The ground is one of them, of course, and the markets will have moved quite heftily. So let's have a look at the first race then of the entire week, the Supreme Novices Hurdle, and a very small field indeed. As we were saying off air, not many social runners. And a lot of the runners who might have come for a chance here have gone for easier handicap routes later in the week. So we're left with a very short price favourite here, and even shorter than than he was 24 hours ago, and that is Appreciate It, now even money favourite for the Mullins team. Metier is 5-1, Soaring Glory 13-2 with Ballyadam, 9-1 Blue Lord, 22 is Irascible, 33 is Grumpy Charlie, and 40-1 for Pleasure is the outsider of the lot here. Then, Paul, I will come to you first to talk about what is going to be a surprisingly hot favourite here in the shape of Appreciate It, who comes into this off the back of 2 Grade 1 wins. The soft ground has come in his favour as well, and he very much sets the standard.
Yeah, he does set the standard. I mean, you know, it's funny. I see lots of different pundits, and myself included, we've all been talking about in the run-up to we've got to oppose Appreciate It. Don't think he's that fast for a 2-miler. The ground will dry out and he's one to take on. And what normally happens in these situations is they get smashed off the boards and they win hard held, which you know, the first bit has already happened because he's a shade of odds on in places now, and you know, you can understand it. But at the same time, the ground isn't going to be anywhere near as soft as it has been for any of his runs over hurdles. And I've still got this sneaky suspicion that he's an out-and-out staying 2-miler who is not going to be over 2 miles for much longer in his career. He ain't coming back from Champion Hurdle next year, for instance. I just don't think that's on. So I'm still going to take him on. I keep umming and ahhing over what with is the problem. But you know, if Metier does need a bit of cut in the ground, it has come his way. And I think he's just got a bit of speed about him. Harry Fry had a nice welcome win earlier on today as well. But you know, to win, you know, going away in the Tolworth by 12 lengths, it's a different line of form to the Irish form as well. That's the other thing. I mean, we're looking at some of the others. They've all finished behind Appreciate It anyway, so if you want to look for something, then you probably should look at the Brits. They don't come from the yards you normally expect, but I mean, Harry Fry went very close in a Ballymore a few years ago with Neon Wolf, and obviously he was responsible for handling
Rock on Ruby.
That's it. I nearly forgot his name. Rock on Ruby years ago for Paul Nicholls in the Champion Hurdle. So he knows when he's got a good horse. And they only missed the big handicap hurdle at Newbury because it was moved late on. And in the interview beforehand, he was expecting a really, really big run. And you've got to remember, he was down to give Soaring Glory £16 that day. I have a feeling he's still going to prove to be the best of the Brits. Whether that's good enough is another matter.
Metier then for Paul, who's currently a 5-1 shot, and a lot of people will be looking at that thinking 8 runners, 5-1. It's an absolute each-way steal. But Tom, let's have a look at this race with you. As we were saying just off air, you know, the type of trainers lining up to take on the Irish, your Harry Fry's, your John Joe O'Neills, Chris Honor, Alex Ailes. But actually, it is some of these surprising yards that actually do a bit better in novice hurdles. I guess it depends what your approach to training is. Some are more patient than others, and as I said, Harry Fry, as Paul said, even Neon Wolf, you know what I mean. Harry, of course, won a novice hurdle at the festival as well. So we've got 8 runners here. Are you with or against Appreciate It? I assume that normally, as you're against favourites, you've got something up your sleeve.
Yeah, I've got to be against it, haven't I? I mean, I'm not anti the horse by any stretch of the. How can you be? He's got a great resume, hasn't he? I mean, he was second in a champion bumper and he's won 2 Grade 1 hurdles. He's obviously a top-class racehorse. It's just that I didn't think he'd separated himself by the amount that the market said he had in the run-up to this race. I mean, he was only 3 lengths better than Ballyadam in the Leopardstown race when Willie Mullins was having every winner and the ex-Elliott run horses weren't running so well. I don't think there'll be much between Ballyadam and Appreciate It tomorrow. I personally think, you know, Ballyadam is getting towards a big price now, to a backable price. But the ground has become an issue now because I just don't know what it's going to be. I mean, the thing about when rain comes, it's just you don't know. You just don't until we've seen the first race. We have no idea. I was reading a column by Willie Mullins a minute ago who said it was definitely good when he arrived on Sunday night, and he woke up this morning and he thought it was definitely soft. He said it had made a massive difference to the ground, and he was delighted because all his horses like it. And I think that's the point, isn't it? I think form and prices are based on what has happened during the season, and we have been running all on soft ground, which is why Appreciate It's to the top of the market. All these horses are the top of the market, and Keels and I would be looking to take on horses like that for the simple reason that they're changing conditions, and it's all about speed and pace at Cheltenham. Now, I don't know if it's going to be the same as that this year. It could be like it was last year, where the soft ground horses come to the fore again, and the form throughout the year is maintained. I can't bet like that. I can't tip like that. I can't think like that. I've got to think that it'll all change around. The form can change around at Cheltenham very quickly. So a few weeks ago, I nailed my colours to the Soaring Glory and Ballyadam masts. I was hoping for good ground. They haven't got it, but it's not going to be heavy. It's not going to be heavy. Let's get that straight before we start. So I'll stick with them, but I do have a feeling Metier might be the one. I think his Tolworth form, while probably isn't brilliant, he still did win on the bridle by a long way. It was a grade one. He could be the one on the day. I'm hoping that Soaring Glory is the one because I'm on at a big price, but I'll take on Appreciate It, but he can win. Of course he can.
I've got a social comment in here ahead of the Supreme Novices Hurdle. Then Paddy Kearney says, I've got Ballyadam each way, and I imagine at probably a bigger price than he is currently at 13-2. I'm bringing in Ballyadam and Blue Lord and Irascible as well, Paul. Just a quick question. Is it possible, Appreciate a 7-year-old, he's won 2 Grade 1s coming into this. We've seen plenty of horses who've had similar profiles. I mean, Abacadabra last year, for example, came into it off the back of Grade 1 form. And is it possible that he has peaked and something younger that will come here at a championship pace will improve past him?
It's not impossible. I mean, you know, but they've all finished behind him and a fair way behind them. And the ground's gone back in his favour, which is why I want to go for the British horses. Having said that, I mean, one of the ones I backed was, you know, at the beginning, you know, in January was Irascible, who is one of the outsiders. And I thought, given how little experience he had, he may well improve. He didn't. But he did take the leader on, whereas I think he wants dropping in. So I can see him running a big race, but I wouldn't be 100%. Because
that's the thing, Blue Lord and Ballyadam ran on for the places after Irascible had used all his gas,
exactly,
essentially.
Yeah.
Simon, again, how this race is going to unfold for punters, people will be looking at it. You've very much got 2 camps, haven't you? Appreciates as a certainty, and people are looking at an 8-runner race back in each way. I've actually had a little bit on Irascible, and even Grumpy Charlie isn't completely out of running up that hill. He's rated very similar to Soaring Glory and could run on for a place. This looks an open race.
It does. I mean, look. I mean, the Appreciate It's been really heavily backed over the last 24 hours. A lot of that is the grounds changing, the rain coming. He's now 10-11. I think there was sort of 5-4, a bit of 11-8 when the decks closed. I spoke to James earlier. He said it's just one-way traffic, and this normally you'd be looking to take on, you know, the supreme hot favourite, the first, but. He was saying the way it's being backed, the way the ground's come right, he's saying it's probably not one, you know, we're going to get super stuck into, really, because it's obviously the smaller field. The going's quite interesting. Chris Cook, the Racing Post's new signing, he tweeted that the going stick report today was either 5.5 and last year it was 5.6 or the other way around. In other words, he's saying actually the going stick's now saying it's exactly the same ground as last year's Tuesday. Okay. So it'll be quite interesting to see, so, you know, what you thought of it, what it was like last year, because it looks like it's going to be a replica of that.
Well, we were talking to Paul, that was the slowest Supreme in how many years?
Well, I mean, over the last 10 years, there's been a 22-second difference between the fastest and slowest, and the slowest was last year's Shishkin, which is 4:08, whereas Altior was 3:46.
So if it's the same going stick as last year, we are looking at
slow ground.
Well, we're looking at very slow ground. It was soft, heavy in places, if it is.
So I think that plays to Appreciate. I mean, what I would say is that I think it's an interesting race tactically. You've got For Pleasure who's going to bowl off in front. I think Grumpy Charlie likes to go forward. Appreciate It should probably get a toe for plenty at the race, and the others will be in behind him looking to see whether they can come past him up the run-in. So it's, you know, I think it's one of those great races to watch.
Yep.
I was down at Jack Dawes this morning. They were disappointed with the rain. They wanted a better ground for Soaring Glory, but they'll take his chance, and he's really well. And
I mean, he's won a bumper on soft, and he's finished second in a list of bumpy on heavy, so he's not completely unproven. But Newbury obviously very quick.
Speed horses always want better ground, don't they?
Yeah. True.
But I mean, I fear this is going to be one of those where, I mean, he was 1-3 when he won at Leopardstown, beating Ballyadam, Blue Lord, and Irascible. I know, and I watched it again last night. They weren't. I think they could have run for another 2 furlongs. I don't feel any of them would have caught him. So I think he could be one of those you could look at, and actually, it might not be that bad a price.
Let's have a look at a social comment. I think we've got one more coming up on screen. Oh, no, sorry, I misheard entirely. There's no social comments whatsoever. Our producer was telling me to move on. So let's get a selection, just confirm selections then for the Supreme. Paul, how you playing it?
I mean, a tentative Metier, not strong.
OK, Tom?
I'm still hoping Soaring Glory does it. I am very worried about the ground, but there we go. You make your bed and you live in it, lie in it, live in it, lie in it. One of them.
I mean, you do over the past 12 months,
well,
I guess.
I live in it these days.
Simon?
I actually, he's one of these, this is one favourite I feel everyone's been trying to find a way to get beat. And the more I look at him, I think he might just be a very good bet at around even money.
Okay, and I want Grumpy Charlie or Irascible in the frame. That's what I want for that Supreme. I want them to do a Thomas Darby or an Itchy Feet and run on from nowhere for a place. So that's the Supreme. Let us know your selections as well ahead of tomorrow's opener. Let's move on to what was going to be an incredible race and still is a fantastic lineup. But over the past week or so, this race has become a little bit decimated. It is, of course, the Arkle Novices Chase. And we have a small field and a short price favourite again in the shape of Shishkin, who's currently 4-9. For the Nicky Henderson team, 5-1 All Mankind, 15-2 Captain Guinness, Franco de Port 9-1, Eldorado Al Ennis 50s, and Numitor is 150-1 here. Just the 6 runners, Tom. I'll come to you first. It's a shame about Energamine. Of course, this would have been a fascinating clash between those two, but I mean, it's hard to. Is there a chink in Shishkin's armour anywhere?
Not in what he's shown. The only thing he'd say, and it's probably nothing, but if Altior's coughing, I would imagine some horses in the other yards in the yard is coughing. And that's the only thing, the only niggle I would have in the back of my mind is that there's something was up with him. Because if something isn't up with him, he'll win this. He's miles better than these. Ground, jumping, he's just better horse than all the ones he's up against. So it's the only thing, if you want to take him on, you could have in the back of your mind. I personally don't think it's a worry, and I think he'll win, and I think he'll win hard held.
With 6 runners and All Mankind, we know how he's going to run. He might get taken on by Numitor. Is there space for one of the other 3 to maybe run on for a forecast?
Well, Captain Guinness is quite a good horse. If you'd have stopped the Supreme 3 out last year, I would have thought. I don't know what the Betfair prices in running are, but I would imagine that Captain Guinness was a lot shorter than Shishkin at that time. But look, he's another one that wants good ground, I think. I've always felt that Captain Guinness, through his breeding, would want much, much better ground. I could see Franco de Port staying on to be second myself. I think he's sort of probably the forgotten horse because he's the sort of the Mullins horse that's parachuted in there. But he was second to Energamine in the Irish Arkle, wasn't he? So he would be my one to have the forecast, but it's not really my kind of bet, if truth be told. I think Shishkin will win, and I'll be happy to watch him do so.
Okay, Shishkin then is a 4-9 shot here. Paul, we'll get your opinion on Shishkin in a second, but talk to me about All Mankind. Of course, he's the youngster of the group, and fairly rare to see a horse rock up from last year's triumph to
and look, first time out this season, he got beat over hurdles, and I thought, well, that's just confirmed he just isn't all that. And then he goes over fences, he jumps like a stag on his first 2 starts, really, really well. Last time he didn't jump so well, but we had then Skelton on, didn't we? And he said, well, look, the ground was bottomless then, and he kept sliding into them. And he definitely did jump better the times before. So I'd forgive him that. I don't think he ran a form at the meeting last year, though. So there may be a Cheltenham issue, because obviously he was beaten at Cheltenham again over hurdles first time this season. And I do think Captain Guinness, I think he was going to finish second to Energamine last time. I think 2-1 without the favourite with Coral is a massive, massive price. I personally think he's going to end up being easily the second best out of those.
He's not. He could find trouble in an empty room, Captain Guinness a bit.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it wasn't his fault at Cheltenham, was it? Like, right. I mean, he can give him. But there are plenty of horses like that. But and he fell last time, so he doesn't have. He's got more letters than numbers in his watch. But when he's right, he's a very talented horse. And
your opinion on Shishkin? I mean, I thought there was a potential that this horse could be the best horse we see this week.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's great. He might just be the best horse runner at the festival. But we won't actually find out until next year when he runs against some top class horses. But again, the 2 mile division is going to be weak, isn't it?
If you're against him, how do you beat him?
I don't know. I genuinely don't know.
I mean, no one's figured that out yet, Simon.
No, I mean, again, chatting to James on the way here, he felt it's one of those where sometimes you look and you think he should be 3s on, not 4-9. And, he's going to be very hard to beat. I mean, All Mankind, that one way of running on this softer ground as we believe it is. And, he did thump a couple of fences at Warwick. You sort of feel he's drifting. He's 5s from 7-2 today. And the one for money is Captain Guinness. I suppose he's the leap of faith horse. He's quite unexposed. He was running a huge race this Supreme, as Tom rightly said. Fell. We don't know what would have happened behind Energamine. So if there's one who's kind of, you still think could be, even fit to lace Shishkin's shoes, it could be Captain Guinness. The others look exposed. I think it's, barring, something you don't want to happen, I think Shishkin is going to be very, very hard to beat.
Of course, you have connections, Coral, with the Tizard team. Eldorado Allen's the only one we haven't talked about.
Yeah, that was a late call. I spoke to Joe And he said literally at 5 to 10 he had both owners on the phone and they were literally seeing the numbers in the race, and they started to roll the dice and go for the Grade 1 rather than the Grand Annual. You know, at prices, it's obviously would have been a lot shorter than the Grand Annual, but I suppose their thinking is, how often do you get a chance with a novice to run in the Arkle? Not very often, so they're going for it. But we'll see how he gets on.
Okay, social comment then in ahead of the Arkle. Brian Murphy, Franco de Port to place is the bet for the Arkle. Yeah, he's a 9-1 shot, and we've got 6 runners, of course. We thought we'd have a bigger field than this, Simon. So Franco de Port, I imagine a lot of people were looking at double figures, 3 places, anti-post each way against the likely favourites. Franco de Port, obviously a Grade 1 winner, ran on last time out. What is the book saying for against Shishkin in terms of your each way?
Yeah, I mean, people who backed anti-post in these novice chases are sitting very happy because they've got 3 places in these races and they backed them. Now it's tricky. I mean, Franco de Port and Captain Guinness being the best backed alternative to Shishkin today. Franco de Port behind him second best. So they're the only 2 you'd probably be looking at. But it's not an easy race. It's not a great show. I mean, to be fair, when Duvand got beat, funnily enough, years ago in the champion chase, 2-9. It was the lowest staking race of the whole meeting, and this it probably will end up being a relatively light betting. But the double with Appreciate It is just shy of 2-1. That will be popular.
Okay, quickly wrap up selections then here of the ahead of the Arkle. Paul?
Yep, Shishkin, Captain Guinness without.
Okay, very well. Tom?
I will be on Franco de Port. Again with Shishkin, obviously, in the forecast, if I ever get my words out. Shishkin and Franco de Port.
Thank you, Tom. And Simon?
I'd back, Shishkin's Captain Guinness forecast, straight forecast.
Okay, there we go. The Arkle then, not quite as exciting as we were hoping for this year, but still potentially an interesting horse at least. And be interested to see what, maybe not now, it's Simon for the champion chase next year for Shishkin, of course, because he could be a hot favourite in 12 months' time. They're the first 2 races then. Bit of a change of pace for race 3 tomorrow. It is, of course, the Ultima, a handicap chase here over 3 miles and a furlong, and an interesting betting heat here, headed by Happy Go Lucky. For the Kim Bailey team, Kim, who we talked to a couple of weeks ago, said this was his best chance of a winner all week. 3-1 now, Happy Go Lucky. 11-2, I Right. 7-1 is 1 for the team, and Milan Native. It is 9-1 Al Nadam, 12's Pim, discordantly 14s, and 16-1 Bar. Paul, we've got surprisingly top-heavy market here, actually, for a handicap.
Yeah, I mean, it surprises me. You can see where you're coming from with Happy Go Lucky being favourite. He's got course form. He was 4th or Indefatigable. Can't say that. Last year, he's been placed behind Time Hill over hurdles as well, and he won here early in the season. But look, in terms of a handicap mark of 147, a defeat to Getaway Trump, and a victory over the mighty Don doesn't excite me when the odds are 11-4, 3-1. It really doesn't. I mean, the mighty Don has beaten 1 horse in 2 runs since, and is going to be 33-40-1 for the National Hunt Chase later on. And yet this horse is, a very, very warm favourite for a 16-runner handicap chase at the Cheltenham Festival.
If you rate him through Paint the Dream, he looks quite well handicapped.
Yeah, you do, but was it the Paint the Dream that was so good in the second half of this season, or the one that got beat 24 lengths by Protectorat next time out?
Fair.
Like, you know what I mean? So, yeah, you can say that you can look at that 2 ways. He can look very well handicapped. I can certainly see him winning, but, I mean, I'm just not remotely excited about him at the price.
16 runners in here, though, so plenty of options. You've got I Right, who pretty much turns up and runs exactly the same race in all the top handicaps. 1 for the team, looks quite well handicapped on his form from last year. Kim Muir, winner, Milan Native. Al Nadam's in great nick as well. So there are plenty of informed horses and plenty of lurkers as well.
Yeah, I mean, the two, you can see I Right running well, but like you said, he will run the same race. 1 for the team, just have a little bit of an issue if the ground is too soft and the track, because nearly all his form's on a flat track. But I like Al Nadam, and I like Discordantly. Now, Al Nadam has won 2 races at Sandown on very, very soft ground, looking like it'll stay forever. They were only over 2.5 mile. Trainer was going to run him at 3 mile at Sandown until they invented a new race when they abandoned the hurdles. I'd actually backed him anti-post for that race. So ended up losing money on, because he went into a race that didn't exist when I had my anti-post bet, which is the weirdest betting story that I've ever had, I think. But anyway, yeah, he bolted up there, and he's going to stay. I'm pretty sure he's going to stay. And then discordantly, he's got he's got UF next to his name. But I think you'll find if you watch him, he unseated at the second in the Thai Estes, won by Cocoa Beach. But next time out in the Irish national trial, he took lengths out of the field at every single fence, and then fell after the fence 5 out when he came down. I know Jessica Harrington talks him up quite well in the weekend that comes out tomorrow, and she says he's actually the best jumper in the yard. And if you watch that race, you look at it, you will see exactly why. And I think as a 7-year-old who ran 2 really good races early in the season, 4th in the Troy Town, giving chunks of weight to the Jam Man, he's got a massive chance at around 14-1.
Okay, he's currently a 14-1 shot, Tom, and I do believe, again, we were talking about this off air, that you're also in agreement that despite those letters next to Discordantly's name, he's not as bad as a jumper as he looks on paper.
Yeah, I can't. I'm a bit of a parrot here. I'm going to copy Keels here. I couldn't agree more. The thing about the favourite, Happy Go Lucky, I always think it's funny when trainers go to Stratford and Fakenham. Sounds to me like they're going for good ground. Now, I know he's got form in soft ground, but when you go to those tracks, that's some of the best ground in the country, though. So when you do your novice chases out, I always think trainer thinks this horse wants good ground. Now, as we said, we've been through this 100 times about what the ground will actually be tomorrow. We're not sure, but I think he'd be a lot better on better ground, Happy Go Lucky. So I'm against him. I'm with Keels on Alnadam especially. I mean, if you go back to his first Sandown run when he won a handicap there in really impressively. I think the 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th have all won races since. Some of them have won more than one race since. The second Killer Clown is now rated 145, I think he was. I think he is rated now. I think that's the same as Alnadam is tomorrow. But he beat him, giving him loads of weight that day. So I just think he's a well-handicapped horse, and he's not only going to stay 3 miles, he's going to improve for 3 miles. I think he's got a really good chance. If the ground is what they say it is, and it's 5.5 and softer than it was last year, he's got a massive chance. Because I like novices in handicaps. He's a really good jumper. He's going to stay. He's got the best jockey riding around on him at the moment, Harry Skelton. I just like him a lot. I think he'll run a really big race. Discordantly's the same. I'm like Keels. I backed him last time in the national trial at Punchestown, and he was jumping brilliant. I couldn't believe it when he fell. He literally jumped the fence and just sort of fell out. I don't know what happened. He was like me after 6 pints. He just couldn't get his legs together. And I don't know what happened. But he's a good jumper. He likes soft ground. As you say, the Troy Town at the start of the season, if you watch the race back again, he makes a terrible mistake. I don't know why he keeps doing it, but the second last, him and the Jam Man are well clear. He would have finished second that day, giving lumps of weight to the Jam Man. He's a little bit lower in the weights here. And the point to make, this is a really, really weak race. I don't like one for team on the ground. Milan Native was almost pulled up last time. I just don't see him loving the ground either if it's soft. And I just can't see anything else having any chance in there at all. I think it's a really, really, weak race for a Cheltenham Festival race. It's worse than the Sky Bet Chase was the other day, and it's worse than the Ladbrokes Trophy. And yet we're talking about it. We've been talking about it for ages. So I'm quite happy to take a couple of big prices. And for me, it is the 2 Keels mentioned, Alnadam and Discordantly.
Okay, thanks very much, Tom. Let's have a look at a few social comments then here ahead of this race. Jonathan Lennon says, what about Vintage Clouds each way? He always runs well here. And interesting that this race often goes to a bit of a quirky sort with headgear on. Vintage Clouds is a quirky sort with headgear on. What price is he? He's a big price.
He's a big price. He's 20-1. I think he's a front runner. I think when he was placed a couple of years ago, he ran from the front, and they go well on this course, particularly when you get into a nice rhythm up front.
He's very well handicapped compared to last year as well.
Exactly. He did run well.
I think it's the 4th time is it the 5th time he's running this race? He was second one year, wasn't he? He's been placed a few times, so I get it. Yeah. So I totally
given it's a weak race, Tom, you said yourself, it's probably it's much weaker renewal of this race than normal years. Even though he's getting older.
I totally get it. I totally get it. He's got cheek pieces on. He's had a wind up as well a couple of times. They say that second time after wind up, so I get it. I'd just be surprised if he could beat some of the younger ones, some of the young novices.
Okay, another social comment here for this race. Ollie CCFC21, thanks for coming in, Ollie, says, I Wright deserves a win in a handicap like this. He absolutely does. And I mean, he looked like he was going to win at Doncaster, didn't he? And absolute heartbreak ball on the run in.
Yes.
And Tom just said, he said this race isn't as strong as the Lambert Trophy.
Yep.
He came second in it. Isn't as strong as the Sky Bet Chase. He came second in it. He's only £3 higher than last time. I think he's just got a great chance.
Still got pulled back by a 12-year-old when he looked all over the winner, though, didn't he?
Yeah, it was a strange one.
Sorry.
It was a new way to get beat for him, at least.
Exactly,
I mean,
He beat everything else in the field.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, he did. People will beat Metier and I Wright each way double tomorrow, I think. People are looking at that 5-1, the pair of them. And one more social comment for this race from Deck Roberts, Milan native for me. Now, Tom and Paul, this is a race of all the handicaps at the festival that the Irish just cannot seem to win. They dominate every other race, but the British challengers tend to win this race.
Yeah, they do, but I suppose me and Tom have gone with one in discordantly, haven't we? And he's a festival winner. Won the Kinmure last year. I don't think that was the best Kinmure ever run myself, and he's £8 higher. And like Tom said, he just tailed off last time, wasn't he? He was beaten a long way. Had a wind up, could make the difference. Amazing how many wind ups happened just before Cheltenham, and they come back to form on a good mark. But I don't think he's necessarily on a good mark this one, so I'm against him.
Okay, you are with Al Nadam and discordantly.
Al Nadam and discordantly, yeah.
As are you, Tom?
Yeah, same as that.
Okay, Al Nadam and discordantly. Simon?
I mean, I just quick pass on. I mean, Happy Go Lucky's been absolutely smashed into today, from 9-2 down to 3-1. Is it quite an interesting facet of the handicaps at Cheltenham that normally you'd expect a good spread of money, but actually often if there's a shortish price favourite at the handicap, it polar all the people back it. Junior, when he won the Kinmure a few years ago, was the worst result of the week at 100-30, and this will be a shocker.
A few years ago, Simon. How old are you?
I still remember it. I think I was trading director at the time, but God, that was a long time ago. You're right, but it just stuck in my mind. The Kinmure being the worst result of the week was because there was a 3-1 favourite. But I like I Wright, second favourite. I think he should be favourite rather than Happy Go Lucky.
Okay, and I'll go for one for the team here. Again, Nick Williams won this with Coustart Sevilla a few years ago. This horse looks very well handicapped on some of his form, not only over fences but over hurdles. He's been running against Chamblou, Next Destination, and he comes here, as you said, in a bad or an average renewal of the Ultima. So I think one for the team off a mark of 140 could be interesting for Nick Williams and Tom Scudamore. Let's move on to the big race of day one, the Champion Hurdle. And what a Champion Hurdle. I was saying about small fields and maybe disappointing that some of the novice races haven't got the challenges that you would be hoping for. But the championship races this week, every single runner in them has earned their place. And that definitely goes for the Champion Hurdle this year. And that mare's allowance has had a big impact on the market, as we have Honeysuckle now 7-4 at the top of the betting for Henry de Bromhead. 4-1 Epatante, 9-2 is Goshen, it is 15-2 Abacadabra, 10-1 Sharjah, 14 Silver Streak, 20s James de Burleigh, and 22-1 Bar Those. I'll come to you first, Tom, as this is a bit of a belter, but the market appears to be siding with Honeysuckle. She's yet to be beaten, and punters are assuming that run is going to continue, judging by the market.
Yeah, I'm glad you pointed out what a great race it is, Ross, because we've been sort of dissing a few of the races so far. I mean, we've had some bad champion hurdles in recent years. This is certainly not one of them. This is one of the better ones I can remember. As we say, you've got the two mares, you've got the would have been Triumph Hurdle winner, you've got a horse that was just touched off in the Supreme, you've got the Christmas Hurdle winner, you've got all the horses you would like in there. Obviously, there might be one or two exceptions are there, and I think it's a really, really, really good race. I once again were on the good ground horses when I did this a few weeks ago. I was on Abracadabras and Silver Streak. Abacadabras, I keep calling it Abracadabras, like the magicians. But I'm worried about the ground for them now. I really am. I've come very, very much in the favour of Goshen. I was so impressed with him at Wincanton last time. Very, very few horses hit the line as hard as he does. I just think he's a bit of a freak. He's one of those horses that just seems to get going and starts going faster and faster as the race goes on. And I can see if the ground is what they're saying it is and it's got soft there, I think he has a massive chance now because, we all know what he would have done in the Triumph. I'm not one of these statsmen that say 5-year-olds can't do this, 5-year-olds, can't win. I think he's a brilliant racehorse. I think he's a bit of a freak. And I know all the money's been for Honeysuckle, but I think before last time, she wouldn't have been 7-4. Last time sort of clouded the issue a bit because I thought while she was brilliant, I didn't think any horse in the race ran its race. Sharjah certainly didn't, and I'm not sure Abacadabras did either. So I think she might have been slightly flattered by that. That's not to say she can't win. Of course she can, but 7-4 is plenty short enough in a field of this class. And I think Goshen will win.
Okay, Goshen then for Tom. Let's have a look what they're saying online then. Social comments, as we said, live and interactive here. And Rob Whiteman says, really fancy Goshen to run an absolute barnstormer. That's from Rob Whiteman there. Goshen, the very definition of an all or nothing horse, though. I think maybe don't back him each way. Ian Cruz, Goshen out to 92, but well worth a punt.
Good man,
That's
Ian.
for Ian as well. That's lining them up for you, Tom, here. And Jaden Graham Campbell
Ian,
says, Goshen takes horses out of its comfort zone. There we go. I assume they're not the only social comments for the Champion Hurdle, and they've been selected by Rob to
I
boost.
can't write them quick enough, Ross.
I didn't know you'd set up so many fake email addresses, Tom, but fair enough. So Goshen.
Goshen. Well, they are in agreement with the trainer. Quote on the Racing Post website at the moment. I think he'll run a great race. I really do. You don't get more sort of bullish than that, do you? Gary Moore's not one to go shouting from the rooftops. And whenever he's stood up or been in form, he's been untouchable, and nothing's got within 10 lengths of him. I mean, had he cleared the last in the Triumph, he'd have won by 10 or 12. And the only time he's been beaten is that time in the International when they tried to hold him up, and he obviously didn't like it. If the ground had been good, I was going to be place-laying honeysuckle all day long. I still think she's the most likely one of the top three to bomb, and she's become so much shorter. It was really, really soft ground at Leopardstown last time. Really, really soft. It was actually 12 seconds slower than when she won the race a year before. And that was on yielding ground, and she scrambled home by half a length from Darvasar. So I think she's monstrously flattered by that result. Could be wrong, but she's not going to get an easy lead. Not with Goshen in the field, not with Aspire Tower in the field.
If you read her through Darvasar last year, then Epatante and Sharjah have got the...
Well, yeah.
Depends which piece of form you pick, doesn't it?
Yeah, of course it doesn't. And Epatante comes in here, having had back issues, having run a poor race behind Silver Streak. And of course, she doesn't have Barry Geraghty on either. No disrespect to Aidan Coleman, but Barry Geraghty's been one of the best jockeys around that hurdles track for years, and he's no longer there. That is something that you have to work into the equation as well for yourself when it comes to punting. I'm not as concerned about the going as Tom is, because I just don't believe it's going to be as bad as it was last year. But even so, Sharjah went very close last year. He was actually last at the top of the hill. When Darvasar and Epatante, who finished first and third, were second and third, and he was that far back.
He's still on the bridle,
and still on the bridle comes last. But it obviously made a huge amount of ground up, and whereas Epatante was just controlling it, and had plenty left. So I think a stronger gallop is definitely going to suit him. We've seen how well he's suited to a strong gallop when he gets it in the Matheson Hurdle at Leopardstown, and we also know that he doesn't like that outside track at Leopardstown, because he's now run there 3 times, and he's run there terribly every time. Abacadabras is the other one. He has run his best race of the season for each of the last 2 seasons at this track, finishing 4th in the bumper, finishing 2nd to Shishkin. Now, we all know that Shishkin got in a bit of trouble, but take him out. He's a supreme winner by 11 lengths. Absolutely destroyed the rest, and they're not bad horses behind. Chancery House is going to have an each-way chance, and he was third. He's going to have an each-way chance in the Marsh.
I mean, everything in behind has actually improved. I looked the other day, between sort of 6 and 10
exactly.
pounds.
Allard looked really good over fences, on his first.
Edward Stone ran a cracker.
Edward Stone, exactly, won 4th in a Betfair Hurdle. It was a good race, and he was a very, very good second. And again, he what he wants, I think he's shown, is he wants a big field. And he wants a decent gallop. He's getting both. They're my 2.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, Sharjah. Yeah, must be one of the most underrated horses in training. He's won 4 Grade 1s. As I said, speed figure man myself, and he comes into the Champion Hurdle. This is the 3rd season in a row that he comes in with the top figure in that December Leopardstown run. He was brought down behind Espoir de Arlene. Last year he was maybe given a bit too much to do, and I wonder whether Paul Townend on his back, especially knowing what happened with Honeysuckle and Benny Deur last year, whether he's going to think, I need to sit a little bit closer And you're going 4 places, is that right?
We are 3 places.
Oh, sorry, I've said you.
But to be fair, I mean, it's a smaller field, so he'll be able to, and there's going to be loads of pace on up front. Because, I mean, you're going to have Not So Sleepy, Aspire Tire, Silver Streak, I'm sure will try and run relatively forward. Goshen, Honeysuckle won't be far away. Epatante, I think, was quite prominent last year. So he can be sitting last, Chile, but actually only a few lengths off the pace. I mean, he seems to be, he's definitely being well backed each way, with that feeling that he's going to be ridden cold to come through the field. All the money's for Honeysuckle. She's been really well backed in the last few hours, all ground related. I think suddenly the faith, the confidence, the soft ground. Epatante taking a massive walk in the market out to 4-1. Goshen drifting to 9-2. And very little else being backed against them apart from Sharjah each way. I mean, one horse I just asked, the only horse I've looked at who is relatively unexposed, will love the soft ground, stays well, is that James Du Berlay. Do we know anything about Willie Mullins?
What's your toy form like, Tom?
I did have a good look at it the other day. I've heard a few whispers for it. You know, a couple on the old virtual preview circuit. There's a few of them touting around James Du Berlay, and I think Willie Mullins was quite sweet on him the other day. I can't. It's just guesswork, isn't it? I have no idea.
The talk is he's insisted it runs. You know, rather than the owners. Again, it's just talk.
Yeah.
But you know, he's got an official rating over here of 160. The French would have had him nearer 165. So he's
a 5-year-old.
He'd be right up there. He's a 5-year-old. I mean, they see him as a chaser for next year. But you know, I think Footpad ran 4th in the Champion Hurdle before he won the Arkle.
Yeah.
So you know that could be the route. He could be next year's star novice chaser. That's what he was bought for.
They're just giving him a taste of the track.
But yeah, why not give him a go? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and we're going to have to move on. But the one horse we haven't really mentioned, as I think Tom wrote in the Racing Post fairly recently, Silver Streak, who, if he hadn't unluckily been beaten by Song for Someone, would have won 3 big races over 2 miles this season, when coming into it, with stats galore on his side and a very popular horses as well. So it is a fantastic champion hurdle. I'm sure you've all got opinions, although apparently all your social opinions are Goshen's going to win. Tom, you're in agreement with the social. You're going with the 5-year-old Goshen?
Yeah, I love Goshen. I think he'll win. I think he'll win tomorrow.
Okay, Goshen. And Paul?
I would absolutely love to see Goshen win because Gary Moore's a bit of a legend, isn't he? You know what I mean, and it'd be fantastic. The 2 I've backed are Abacadabras and Sharjah, though.
Okay, and Simon?
I mean, I think I'd love to see Goshen win for Jamie Moore. I mean, it was such an emotional scene when he came down at the Triumph last year. I think it'd be one of those stories that everyone would feel good if they can pull off a huge victory tomorrow. I'm a Honeysuckle man, to be honest. I think now the ground's come, I think it's her time.
Okay, very well. And I'll take Sharjah to run a big race and finally get the look he deserves in this contest this season. That's the Champion Hurdle then. Good luck with whatever you've backed in that race. Moving on then to the next race on the card. It is, of course, the Close Brothers Mares Hurdle here, and we are back to having a short price favourites, which was the case for the first 2 races that we've previewed, and again, in many people's multiples will be the Mullins trained Concertista, who's in at 11-10, Roxana 11-4, 6-1 Dame de Compagnie, 12-1 Black Tears, 16-1 Great White Shark, 20-1 Indefatigable, 20-1 Manila Melody. I won't ask Paul about that one.
Just showing off, aren't you? It's outrageous.
Well, you've already set me up, so you got it wrong earlier, so I knew what it must have been. And 33-1 bar those. But Paul, ignoring Indefatigable, and going with Concertista, who last
hard
year...
enough, isn't it?
It is hard enough. She's...
Last year, she caught the bookmakers on the hop last year because she was 12-1, and she was 12-1 the morning before. And when you looked at her, she'd had one run at Cheltenham in her life on her debut and finished second in the race. And she'd had her novice status preserved, and of course she got absolutely smashed off the board. Came out, won it 12 lengths. She obviously likes the place. They went quite hard that day, and she's a real strong traveller and sat at the back and whatever. But she seems to have improved again this year with 2 wins over 2.5 mile. Willie Mullins has only won 14 of the 18 mares races to be run at the Cheltenham Festival. So what's not to like? I mean, only the price, and I don't think it's that bad. I mean, Roxana is her equal. Both officially and probably truthfully. She's 2 years older. I think she shapes like a stayer now. I think she wants 3 mile. You can understand Dan Skelton coming here because it's 1 horse to beat rather than loads. And of course the ground will definitely help her. But I'd have to give the nod to Concertista myself.
Concertita then is an 11 of 10 shots for the Mullins team, and Paul Townend, a 7-year-old as well, and she could have much more to offer here. Tom, it's not just a one-horse race though. We've mentioned Roxana, Dame de Compagnie, who I said is the mare's Bouvedere, disappointing over fences, coming back over hurdles for a championship race, and Black Tears as well, who has run 2 absolute crackers at the festival over the past couple of seasons, must have a chance at double-figure odds. So again, like a lot of these mares races, Tom, it is quite top-heavy. A few of these hoping for running on into to second or third, perhaps. Are you with or against Concertista?
Tricky one, Ross. Not a great fan of the mares races, if truth be told. There's a bit of the old cross-country syndrome for me. I'll be out making a cup of tea while this one's on. But what I would say is this is a really good race, isn't it, for a mares race? You got the Mares Hurdle winner from last year, Concertista. You've got the Coral Cup 1 and 2. You've got Roxana, who's won this race before. You've got Indefatigable, who won the Martin Pipe last year. And you've got the Cesarewitch winner from the flat in there too. I mean, you literally can't find any other mares to run in here that aren't, they're all top class. I think she'll win. I earlier in the season, I thought they might have a crack at the Champion Hurdle with her. I think she's that good. I think she would be, right in there in the top 4 or 5 in the betting for the Champion Hurdle if she was to run in it. I think she'll probably win. I think Roxana would ideally want a bit further. Which one do I think might be second? Maybe Black Tears, just simply because she's had a better prep this year coming into it than when she ran in the Coral Cup last year. She had a long, hard campaign, but deep down, I think Concertista will win, and I think she'll win with a bit to spare.
Okay, Concertista then is 11 to 10 shots. Here we've got a few social comments in from viewers. Michael Williams. Concertista loves Cheltenham, and she will be another one of Mullins' superstar mares. Yeah, absolutely. As Paul was pointing out, he does pretty much have a monopoly on these races. And Jim Keys, Shishkin, Honeysuckle and Concertista win treble. A sentence to strike fear into the heart of Simon Clare, I'm sure.
Yeah, it'll be about an 8-1 treble, he says, if my maths is about right, which it probably isn't. Concertista is going to be wrapped up in all these multiples, particularly on the first day, but probably across the week. I thought Roxana, her form this year is probably arguably the better. She's in the form of her life. You look at the RPRs. I mean, she's strung those 3 mid-50 RPRs together. She's won this race before. The ground's come right. I think she's got a great chance. And Dame de Compagnie was a big gamble for the Coral Cup, absolutely, and won it easily. I mean, I watched it back yesterday. I mean, it was backed heavily on the day. She was backed heavily on the day. And again, she must be interesting. So I think it's a good race. I mean, I think as a bookie, I feel this is one of the favourites. I like the first 2 in the first 2 races. I think we've got some good opposition to this favourite.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, Tom mentioned her briefly, but Black Tears gave Dame de Compagnie £4 in the Coral Cup last year, and on figures, last time out was a career best performance. So there are a few people crabbing the mares lineup, so, of course, but this is a good race here. What wins, Paul?
Concertista.
Tom?
Concertista will win.
Simon?
Roxana for Dan and Harry.
Okay, and I'll hope Black Tears again sneaks into the frame then for the Mares Hurdle. 2 races to go then here as we come towards the end of day 1, our previews for the first day of the Cheltenham Festival. And we've got 2 left, and we've left the, I'd say the easiest one till now, I reckon. The Boodles, the Juvenile Handicap Hurdle, as we know the Fred Winter here. This should be an absolute cakewalk for our pundits. 9 to 2 the field. We've got 22 of them lining up, and how many of them have actually shown their true form? That is the question. Hougree is 9 to 2 with Saint Sam, 7 to 1 Coltor and Bustleton, 10 to 1 Riviera de Tel, 14 to 1 Publique, 16 to 1 Cabot Cliffs, and 20 to 1 Bar. You can kind of split this race, Tom, into 2 different types. You've got horses like St Sam and Bustleton who've been running in those graded races against your Zanahirs and your Quilixioses, and you've got other horses that have maybe shown one piece of form that have got them into this race, but you don't know how good they are.
Yeah, and you can chop the winners of this race into exactly that pile as well, haven't you? You've got the top weights like your Aramaxes who have been running in graded races, and then you've got the ones down the bottom that come out of nowhere and show improved form. I'd have one of each, to be perfectly honest. In this, I don't think that the likes of St Sam and Bustleton are too badly handicapped, because I'm a big believer in the juvenile form this year. I think the Zanahirs and the Tritonics are really top class horses. Quilixios too. So I wanted to have one of them on my side. I didn't like the fact that St. Sam had a hood on for the first time. I'm not a great fan of hoods. I think it's an admission that your horse might not settle very well. So he might put it all together, because he certainly pulled too hard last time and still stayed on to wasn't actually getting further away from Quiloxios at the line if you watch it back. And I could see him running well, but I prefer Bustleton. I just think he's been trained for the race. Joseph O'Brien won it 2 years ago with Band of Outlaws. JJ Slevin's back on board. He's got the cheek pieces on. I just think he's going to go well. He's only had 2 runs over hurdles for Joseph. He just threw him straight into a grade 2 and then after that into a grade 1 afterwards. I just think he's the type of horse that's going to like the race. The other one I like's down the bottom is Dr. Newland's Sage Advice. A little bit wide about the ground, but he was a decent horse on the flat when trained in Ireland. He started like gangbusters at Kempton. I thought he looked really good. It wasn't a great race, but he travelled and jumped and did everything right. He then bumped into Cabot Hills round Warwick, and Cabot Hills just wins round Warwick, and the Skeltons tend to win round Warwick. And I thought he ran fine, and then you can forget the last run in heavy ground at Fontwell. I just thought he was the type of horse that was going to travel and jump and had the right profile for the race. So I'd go one from the top and one from the bottom, a bit like Brucey's Forsyth, and play your cards right.
Okay, yeah, and you're right. I mean, I just looked at Bustleton. It hadn't quite registered. If St. Sam's a 139 horse, I'm not sure how Bustleton's a 135 horse based on his form with Zanna here. So, yeah, is he? Yeah, 7-1 Bustleton so far. So that's 2 against the field for Tom. Paul, do you want 2, 3? I mean, this is that kind of race.
I'm with him on 1. I think Sage Advice has got a decent chance. You've got to ignore that run on Fontwell. Can be really, really sticky. You see loads of horses that don't handle it. But I was just fascinated by the one right down at the bottom, who's managed to squeeze in Curious Bride. Actually, showed real promise on the first 2 runs over hurdles, finishing second, then winning at Punchestown, where she beat Zafanian and Coulter quite comfortably. They're both much shorter than her in the betting, particularly Coulter, who's like 4th favourite. She was getting the sex allowance there, but they're still giving her weight now. But then she ran in a 2.5 mile race, all age listed event at Navan on absolutely bottomless ground, and she was held up. Now all her good form tells you that she's better when she's ridden more prominently. She made most when she won at Punchestown. And she may have been held up to get the trip, but that also qualified her. You have to have 3 runs, right? And she gets in on a low mark, and it was all touch and go whether she would actually get into the race, because first reserve, and it's a 1 p.m. deadline time, and then unfortunately for the owners of Tinner Haller, he failed to eat up.
You threw him a few quid.
Unfortunately for the owners of Tinner Haller, he failed to eat up 20 minutes before the cut-off time. But luckily, their own horse, Curious Bride, was the first reserve.
Amazing.
I mean, it's wonderful.
First season again.
Sometimes I skip lunch as well, and I don't fancy going for a run, so I can understand it. Sometimes these happen, but luckily, like you said, Curious Bride sneaks in at, I think, is it
25 to 1?
25 to
I mean,
1, yeah.
and to be fair, you have put this up a couple of days ago. I'm surprised it's still 25 to 1. Surely it's got to go. Surely.
Well, Paul
Chipping away.
Paul was waiting for it to get in the race first, before he got stuck in. This is a wide open contest. Just check with our producer. Any social comments for this one, Rob?
No.
Move on. Fair enough. Okay,
let's do the betting.
Do the betting. Yeah. I'm going to throw a couple more at you because depending on what the ground is like tomorrow, I think that Denise Foster, as it is now, has a chance with Glorious Off if it's a bit quicker. But Riviera de Tel, I was impressed with that Punchestown run, and I quite fancy the Devil's Coachman to run a good race in the Supreme. So that form's got to give this horse a chance of 1-3-4.
That's right. Riviera de Tel was running a really big race there. I mean, coming to the last, you thought it was going to win, and it was running against those are older novices on heavy ground. I thought it was a good run. Absolutely hacked up on the first start for the yard. And he's been very well backed. He's now 10 to 1. So he's been the horse is literally backed in the last sort of few hours. Have been Bustleton's been back into 7s from 9s. Riviera de Tel everywhere. That's going. They're probably the 2 best backed in the last few hours. And Hon Public, I suppose there are people putting that form together with Hooghry. A few people have been putting up Hon Public as maybe that must be value of Hooghry's 9-2. Why is Hon Public 20 to 1? So that's been backed each way. But this is a race where every year I would listen to the whispers. I'd end up having 5 anti-post bets in the Fred Winter, and we'd end up not getting placed and doing Match Me Brains. It's a nightmare race for following the horses.
It's a terribly hard race. They must think that Hooghry is a lot better than she showed first run for Paul Nicholls. And he did have an ex-French run terrible first time out and then come in and hack up just last week. Can't remember the name of
right?
it. But, had a break. And
And that was the finale.
He did,
I mean, it was.
yeah.
I can't
He
remember the
beat,
name
I
of it.
remember he beat Pic Dorhy, but I can't remember his name.
Yeah.
But who great? I mean, that was that was finale hurdle, Grade 1, Chepstow. Really tough race, attritional race. That Adagio's 8-1 for the triumph. Nassalam, to be fair, is in this at a big old price, drifting like a barge. But that was a tough place to debut, Hugh Grease. So I think if he has improved a lot from that, then we'd have a good chance.
Tom, your picks?
I'm if I can remember them, Sage Advice and Bustleton.
Paul?
Sage Advice and Curious Bride.
Very well. Simon?
Riviera d'Etal, and just because I love following Dermot World horses, with John Joe Neal Jr. on board, Coulter, even though Paul has pointed out that actually it's not particularly well handicapped versus Curious Bride.
Okay, and I'll go for Riviera d'Etal and Bustleton as well. Looks very well handicapped. Now, as I thought we would do, we've got about 5 seconds to preview the National Challenge Cup, but this happens. You give yourself an hour and we could talk for 10. But the final race on the day is no longer the 4 mile, of course, 3 miles 6 furlongs, the distance here for this race. And again, this has cut up a lot more than we were expecting as well. At the top of the betting is Next Destination, who we weren't necessarily expecting to even run, never mind be favourite. He's 11-4, Galvin 3-1, Ascaria 10 is 4-1, it is 7-1 Lord Royal, 15-2 Remastered, 16-1 Bardo. So again, we've got 5 horses at the top of the betting and then a big jump out to the rest. Paul, I'll come to you first. Yeah. This used to be a race that used to go to exposed sloggers, but these days, classy horses win this race.
3 miles 6 furlong. Doesn't quite sound the same as 4 miles.
Exactly.
But yeah, it does go to classy. But take you back 2 years ago. Even if this had only been over 3 miles 6 furlong, only 4 of the 18 horses that started would have finished. Yeah. You know what I mean? And, it can turn into a right old slog. I think they probably are pretty decent horses, Galvin and Next Destination. Galvin needs to prove his stamina. I mean, I think he'll probably stay. But he's also had the stable switch, can't he, in Ferguson. And, hasn't run for 4 months. The horse he beat last time has done nothing for the form. So, I mean, it's not rock solid to me. Next Destination does jump really well. Looks like a stayer. I can see that, but I think it's a little bit more competitive than people are suggesting. I quite like the look of Snow Leopardess each way at a price. She is just improving. I mean, she's run a cracking race every time. She had 4 runs over fences. Started off behind Shan Blue, then won a good handicap. Had Sam's Adventure behind her then, who's obviously gone on to win an Ida and a Tommy Whittle. Second to Canelo in the Roland Merrick, and she looks like a really, really strong stayer. All her form this season over on soft ground, but real decent, good ground performer as well. She's only been out the first 3 twice in her life, I think. So I think a nice big double figure price about her each way will do me.
Snow Leopardess then, who is...
I like that, 16-1. She's a 9-year-old as well. I think in this sort of soft ground, you don't mind sort of the older chasers.
It's a good story, Snow Leopardess. She's had a foal. She's had a foal already. She went out of training. She had a foal, and she's back in training now. She's owned by the Foxy Pits. So if you're watching ITV Racing tomorrow, you get ready with the hankies because they'll be out if she wins. That's for sure.
Yeah, it would completely be a trends buster, Tom, wouldn't it? Horses with a foal or having 2 years off the track.
That's it. Yeah. It's not in the 10-year trends, that one. That's for sure.
What did you fancy about this?
I agree with Keels a bit. I haven't had a bet in this race and I didn't tip in this race. But if I was going to do it, it would have been Snow Leopardess for the reasons you said. She's a stayer. She won't mind the ground. I think she'll go well. I actually thought that Remastered had a chance. I mean, I'm not a great fan of horses coming back after a hard race at Ascot. I fell for Copperhead and a few last year who'd won that race and then came to Cheltenham. They all have hardly run a race since. Quite a few of them from that race. Surname's another one. But, a lot of horses that had a slog round the Ascot mud in February don't tend to come here and run well. But I was impressed with him. I thought he just jumped and stayed and galloped. I could see him going well, but not a race I've had too much on. I didn't like a few of them, and I get where Keel's coming from about Galvin. He's got a bit to prove for me. I think Ascaria 10 might be the ex-Elliott horse that I would prefer of that two. I think he might be coming with a sort of more solid profile.
Okay, but if you're going to have a bet, Tom, it would be? It
would probably be Ascaria 10, but I won't be having a bet.
Very well. Again, this is the thing. We gamble responsibly, gamble safely, and you don't have to have a bet in every single race. It is a long week, after all. Remember that. Paul?
Best bet of the day?
Just remind me of you tipping this.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was miles away then.
That's all right.
Was that boring?
I was listening to all that nonsense. I was listening to all that nonsense about not having to have a bet in it. No. No, I like Snow Leopardess.
Snow Leopardess. And Simon, what's the big danger on the book for this?
Yeah, well, Escario 10 has been by far the best backed in the last few hours. Now 4-1. I mean, the way the betting's moving, you'd think Galvin could be out to third favourite, and you thought he just had Royal Pagale to get out of the way about a week ago. But yeah, Escario 10 has been very well backed. Remastered is one I'd probably go for. I thought he jumped beautifully at Ascot. If Tom Scudamore can get him into a rhythm like that up front, I think he'll go well and should at least hit the board. So he'd be the one for me.
Okay, very well. There's the thoughts for the final race of day one then. And as I said, we will be here for Tuesday night, Wednesday night and Thursday night as well, going through those cards. Before we leave you, let's wrap up with our best bets for day one. I mean, if it works, we might pop a multiple together. We might all be in the same race for all we know. And we'll get the offers from Simon as well, just to wrap up the show in a second too. But we'll just get the naps and then the offers. Tom, what is your best bet for day one?
Well, I'm with, I'm going to try and remember them now. Jaden, Ian, Michael, Fred, Harry and whatever. I like Goshen.
Goshen it is then. The whole clan is on Goshen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll go Al Nadam in the Ultima.
Ooh.
Okay, so Goshen, Al Nadam.
I'll go Roxana in the Mare's Hurdle.
Okay, I was going to go Black Tears each way, so that's ruined
the...
but it's okay. Rob wants us to wrap up, and now
All right, I'll have remastered. I'll have remastered.
You have remastered, and I'll have Black
If
Tears
Roxana now
way.
wins, and we would have won a fortune, you know her to blame.
Absolutely, it's fine. It's only 3 more days. I'll have to take those pelters. So that's it then. Please do get in touch with us about your selections as well. And before we go, Simon, just remind us, if we're betting with Coral this week, what have you got?
Failed to finish, the big offer. So if your horse fails to finish a race, you get your money back as a free bet up to £10. And 20% of runners last year were pulled up, fell, unseated. Best odds guarantee from the deck stage. So we're best odds guarantee on obviously tomorrow's and Wednesday's runners already. So that's decent. Not everyone does that. And Racing Super Series is a free-to-play a bet or free-to-play game. It's a bit like a place pot. 25 grand jackpot. The last 6 races at Cheltenham and the 7th race is the 5:45 at Newcastle. And you just have to find a horse placed in each race. And on Saturday, 21 winners won just nearly 1,200 quid. So for a free-to-play effort, why not?
Just having a look as an all-weather aficionado. A 0 to 75, 14-run a mile handicap at Newcastle. It's going to get a lot more clicks than you imagined it would. So there we go. Thanks to everyone for watching. As I said, we are back Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Thanks to Paul. Thanks to Tom. Thanks to Simon. I've been Ross Brierley. You've been wonderful. Good night.